for tradition's sake, I'm going through the ranking from the bottom to the top. So the real ranking with the absentee votes. Jigoku Retsuden, Gene Simmons. Those were still the bottom two.
That's so sad.
Hold on, since we just read the real ranking with everybody's votes, should we go through the ranking that we just did? So we just have that all as a clump?
Record both and lay them over each other. Pan them.
Yeah, that'll make sense.
So this is our. I'll read our faux ranking, and
Those
then our
should have
number
showed
two.
up if they wanted to be counted.
Yeah, so I'm going to read our faux ranking. So Jigoku Retsuden, Gene Simmons, Animalize, Sonic Boom, Monster, Carnival of Souls, Revenge, Hot in the Shade, Peter Criss, Lick It Up, Psycho Circus, Asylum, Hotter Than Hell, Love Gun, Creatures of the Night, Paul Stanley, Unmasked, Dressed to Kill, Ace Frehley, Music from the Outer, Crazy Nights, Dynasty, Destroyer, and then our number one was the debut album, but we counted the absentee votes, so the actual best Kiss album, according to science and our panel of experts. Drum roll. Rock and Roll Over.
Yep.
Correct.
Please scroll down really quick.
Correct.
Scroll down a lot, it turns out.
Correct.
So I gave this 23 points out of a possible 25. Gavin ranked it number one. Victor gave it 15 points. Mike gave it 22 points. Jamie ranked it number one with 25 points. And Steve ranked it the lowest with 10 points.
Whoa.
Yep.
So, Steve, tell us about why Rock and Roll Over is actually a bad album.
So this falls into the category of basically forgettable, in that I looked back at my old rankings and said, the only one of these songs that I even recognize is Dr. Love. And according to my notes, this version isn't very good. I just sort of know the version of it that's in my head from having heard it over the years, and this version isn't even as good as that. Maybe this album's pretty forgettable. So yeah, bottom 10 album. Let the yelling commence.
I'm just curious which version of Calling Dr. Love is the one you like.
He doesn't know. It's an amalgamation of made-up versions, and it's just whatever the zeitgeist has absorbed.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like the Smashes, Thrashes, and Hit version, or because I feel like you hear that one pretty often on radio and things like that. That one probably
is that a re-record?
No, it's like a remix. Not an actual re-record, but remix.
Yeah.
But it's one I've heard a lot, like on radio, even in the past 10 years or so. So I feel like, probably once that came out on CD and maybe the back catalog hadn't been reissued yet, it was probably a pretty common version. I didn't know if you were a live version guy. I didn't know if Steve was all about his alive too, or so. Like you said, Greg, it's kind of more just a version he hears in his head of like what it could sound like. Basically, is it the Jigoku Retsuden version that's really tickling your fancy?
It may be the Jigoku Retsuden.
It probably isn't.
Dredged up my old notes, so I ranked Calling Dr. Love at the bottom. With the description, it's completely bland with no energy on the vocal delivery or the drums and a sterile bass and guitar. Sounds like the Dr. Love's downers.
Yeah, I think that there are certain Kiss songs that, like, when you hear it in your head, you don't maybe hear a particular version, just hear, like, an amalgamation of different versions.
That, yeah.
Like Deuce. I think Deuce is the ultimate example of, like, are you really hearing a specific version of that song in your head, or are you just hearing what you imagine the ultimate version of Deuce is?
That's very accurate for me, yeah.
For me, it's both, and it's the alive version. The ultimate and the one that I hear in my head.
But, so Steve, truthfully, is not really a Kiss fan, likes some songs, but just went through this process because we needed promo for our band. So doesn't really like Rock and Roll Over, which is in many ways the definitive Kiss album of like Destroyer is the Kiss album that non-Kiss fans think Kiss is. Rock and Roll Over is the definitive Kiss album of what Kiss actually is.
Right.
Which probably segues good into Victor's analysis where he gave this 15 points. So this album, generally amongst like the diehard Kiss fans, this is ranked very high towards the top as evidence that it won our ranking. Most fans agree, like most the average music listener maybe likes Destroyer more, but the diehard Kiss fan likes Rock and Roll Over more. Victor, what are your thoughts on Rock and Roll Over?
I mean, it's like exactly what you would expect. I think this is still in my portion of my ranking where I'd be like, this is a good album. It just is not that interesting to me. It doesn't take me, if you will. I think Peter Criss's work on this album is quite good, at least in the songs that he sang. I don't listen to drums out of just
It's a rule.
It's a principle, really.
Yeah. It's your allegiance to Joey.
Yes. Right. If I can hear the drums, I do my best to tune them out. I've actually gained significant mastery over a mastering program and have gone in and taken every song that I listen to and just filtered out the drums entirely using different frequency work. But I mean that
can be done. So I don't know if you're joking or not. I mean, I didn't know for some reason you just really wanted to analyze music that way.
Yeah, I wish I had the time and inclination.
Okay, I was like, that sounds messed up, but people have done way stranger things. So I'm like, wait, is this a thing this guy does?
Man, if I had just that many hours in the day to do that to every Kiss album just to see what it would be like.
Well, I forget. Are you a drummer, Victor?
No, I was mostly joking at Gavin.
No, I knew Gavin was. I couldn't remember. I thought maybe that was a thing like drummers do, where you like take out the drums and then you like fill in your own drums and like hear it in your head and like work on your drum and chops or something. Okay, never mind. I took that way too seriously.
You take out the drums so that you can really look at yourself in the mirror. Like, what do I bring to this band?
I mean, it sounds like
do
something
I earn
that
my
could be a
spot
thing,
on this payroll?
It's that long, hard look in the mirror that every drummer needs.
Well, and it's the way you can determine whether or not you miss Jimmy.
That's true, and I always do, especially in these new Pumpkins tunes. But that's another podcast.
Yeah. No, I think we've got time.
He's just not. It's
there.
No, I'm kidding. He's just not there. I hope he's okay. I hope Jimmy's okay.
So I think this album has a hot take. This album has a lot of good songs on it, but they just don't stick with me as well as because as Greg was saying, like the Destroyer sound is kind of what the casual fan thinks of as Kiss, and this is what the actual diehard Kiss fan thinks of as Kiss. And this just doesn't. I think it's a good album. I throw it on every once in a while, and it has songs that I would count among my favorite Kiss songs, but the album as a whole, sonically, is not as interesting to me. Like even as the less generally agreed upon high quality, or generally agreed upon quality being higher than the first two albums, I think I prefer those two albums, even though they are not as conventionally good sounding. And I think also just listening to it right after Destroyer, where I was like, here's the big bombastic Kiss that I enjoy and think of when I think of them. And then I get this. I'm like, wait a minute. Did you guys release these out of order? It's a good album, but it is in the lower end of me considering these albums to be good.
So I'm actually going to go out of order here and have Gavin go next, because I feel like he would be the best counterweight to that. So Gavin, you rank this as number one?
Yeah, for the sole purpose that this is the hardest rockin' Kiss has ever been, excluding Alive.
Have you heard Creatures of the Night before?
Revenge.
Oh yeah, I've heard the Night. I've heard Revenge.
Carnival
Soul.
Yeah, I've heard all of these.
Unmasked.
Lick it up.
But I just think that this was the perfect mix for them, at least, of like simultaneous hunger and ego. right? Because it's a big bombastic album, but this album is still, to me at least, still trying to forge the initial Kiss identity. Which now I'm going down a road of too many highfalutin words for my own liking, but come on, it's outside of Destroyer, it's and Hotter Than Hell and The Elder. I think it's an amazing sounding record. That sonically the sound of it is amazing. Song for song too. Like, there's not a bad song on this album. There's nothing but classics on this album, I would say. This is an album of from start to finish, just grade A Kiss tunes. And you have the nonsensical Peter loveliness that is Baby Driver. You have, for an album where every song can pretty much end with the chorus being looped like 15 times. It works. It's really good. Oh, my body disappeared. But
it's okay. Audio and format.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Skype background. But Peter's drumming is phenomenal on this album. I would say this is some of Peter's best work, along with Destroyer. The solos, Ace's solos on this are great. I mean, come on, Take Me and Ladies' Room. Those two songs alone, that's more than enough reason to have this song as number one. That's, to me, like, Take Me that's big, bombastic Kiss. It's perfectly
stupid.
Like, perfectly stupid and that young dumb fuck energy. Sitting in the back, her head down in my lap, the moonlight shining down on her hair. The radio was playing, her fingertips were straying, her mama didn't know she was there.
You didn't mention the best line from that song.
Stick your hand in my pocket, grab onto my rocket, feel so good to see you receive. So when I was a kid, in the second grade, when I was really into Kiss, at one point I wrote a story. So because I quite literally thought, when I was like 7 or 8, that it was about like transportation.
Yeah, me too. Especially with the song Rocket Ride, which I also thought was just about, isn't outer space cool? So yeah. I was right there with you, buddy. Yeah.
And especially because I had heard, because at that point I had seen Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, so Ace doing his, sticking up the thumb and transporting the band, Take Me. That's what I thought that song was about. So I'm writing this story in the second grade, and I try to include the line, all right, guys, stick your hand in my pocket and grab onto my rocket. And I don't think I was able to. But, this album, it's classic, head to toe. It's hard to think of a Kiss album that I listen to more often. B, a Kiss album that I listen to that often because I enjoy everything on it equally. C, a Kiss album that sounds this good in terms of the band firing on all cylinders. There are other albums that I would put alongside it. Like, I think like Creatures of the Night, for instance, is Kiss regaining the kind of mojo that they had around Rock and Roll Overtime. Possibly same thing for Revenge, but I don't really like Revenge. This is I think that this, more than Destroyer, is the gold standard for what Kiss was aiming for. And I think both Sonic Boom and Monster were them trying to do another Rock and Roll Over and realizing that they just can't recapture that lightning in a bottle. With the exception of I'm an Animal. That's a really good song.
You were saying so many good, reasonable things, and then you just had to ruin it with that dick punch at the end. All right, so I'll go next. So this is I gave this 23 points, so top 3, only behind Music from the Elder and Peter Criss 1978 as Rock and Roll Over.
just normal non-dick punchy opinions.
Right.
I'm saying
So what's your
that as a
favorite
huge-
Kiss album? I mean,
I really struggle to understand why Greg gets the kind of nicknames and abuse that he does online. It's really it's really. I'm finding it challenging right now to understand how somebody that has Peter Criss's 78 and Music from the Elder higher than Rock and Roll Order in their Kiss
I mean, I
ranking
do
gets the
too.
abuse that he does.
much like you said earlier, Jamie, maybe there are too many doobies here in America. I just don't know. I just don't know.
And we all know how many Greg smokes.
Yeah. Well, that's it. He says he's straight edge, but
That must mean something
So
different.
high all the
where Greg is from.
it's just what he says to get the chicks.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, nothing attracts women more than me. Like, hey, ladies, I'm stable and boring.
I mean, you're getting into your 30s. That maybe.
That's why they call me Mr. Stable.
Come and drink my cold Sprite. Do you like Sprite, Greg?
It's fine. I'm largely neutral towards it.
What about 7-Up?
Neutral towards it.
Greg's more of a Fago man.
Greg's a juggalo.
Cotton
Yeah.
candy flavored whoop whoop. Sorry, I've been derailed with my hatred of juggalos, but my love of Fago soda.
It's good for the vocal cords.
Right. But I mean, what has been said about Rock and Roll Over, I think, it's perhaps the most consistent album in the catalog, which is both a positive and a negative, where if you get locked into the groove of this album, you will love it. But if you don't get locked into that groove with the first song, the entire album is going to be a wash for you, and it's just not going to be for you. So, and with most Kiss fans and most hard rock fans, this works for them. This is a great 70s rock album by basically any metric. Every song is phenomenal. And, it even has one of the band's best ballads in Hard Luck Woman, which just is Kiss playing an acoustic song completely straight. Like, there's no joke. There's no gimmick about it. It's just like, hey, we just played acoustic on this song, and it's pretty great. Mr. Speed, regularly called one of the most underrated songs in the catalog, which isn't really underrated if every single Kiss fan says it's underrated. Probably not, but
I think maybe I think it's become that way where everyone realized how underrated it was, but I think it was originally talked about as so underrated because they never played it live.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it was never like a hit
agree.
single or anything.
I agree.
The ladies
I
never
agree with
actually
you.
called him that.
He actually doesn't have the kind of loving that we need.
But this album has maybe like my favorite Kiss guitar tone, my favorite Kiss drum sound. The fact that they just like recorded the drums in a bathroom, and just it sounds great. This album just sounds really awesome, and it's both bombastic and laid back at the same time. And so it's this nice groove and sweet spot where it just really feels like the 70s. Has maybe the coolest album cover in the catalog, and also it doesn't have any Ace songs to ruin it for you. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
Oh,
that's
damn.
the problem.
No, that was a joke. But Ace delivered so well with his lead playing, where even if he didn't contribute any songs, he contributed a lot. Like everyone was firing on all cylinders. And the fact that like Peter had enough bargaining power in the band to get Baby Driver on the album, I think it's great. And I think Baby Driver is an awesome song. Making Love, I Want You, what is the song? Because I've met so many 90s kids who say that, before grunge, loud soft wasn't a thing. And I'm like, oh, you mean dynamics? No, dynamics in music have always been a thing. Here's Kiss doing loud soft.
Okay, great, but it's not like Gouge Away by the Pixies, which I think is what they mean.
I know, but I'm still like the fact that they're like blown away by just dynamics being a thing that exists that you can do in music. Like, man, these grunge guys were geniuses. Like, sure.
Well, first off, Nirvana stole, or Radiohead and Nirvana all stole that from the Pixies, and the Pixies are not a grunge band.
Also, does anybody like really think of grunge bands as geniuses for heavy use of dynamics?
I'll be
I
honest,
went to
Steve.
high
I try to
school-
not think about grunge bands.
But Steve, the answer is yes. I went to high school in the early 2000s, so the
Some of
answer
the
is yes.
best recorded drum sounds were like those Steve Albini and Butch Vig drum sounds, man.
That's nice that you believe that, but no, the best recorded drum sounds are this and Creatures of the Night. Thank you. These drum sounds are crisp and clear and awesome. Like this is maybe like one of my favorite drum albums in terms of just the sound of the kit.
Whose idea was it that crisp and clear drums are the best ones?
Yeah, have you ever heard Reveal?
Look, in
Have you
terms
ever heard
of
guitars?
look,
Like sometimes instruments sound good if they're not actually very clear.
Come on.
sometimes yes, and look, I'm just saying that this album, which won the ranking, has
Yeah,
Sonic
but Kiss fans
that are
voted
chilling.
for it.
I mean, it would have come in second place were it not for the Kiss fans. So it still would have gotten very high. I mean, look, yes, Steve, we know you're a fan of 90s music, so you don't like good production. You want everything to sound muffled so you can't understand what's going on, so you can't tell how shitty it is.
You
But for
about
those
to
of us
tell
who
me
want
It
to...
was great
you
with
about-
its loud, soft dynamics.
You about to tell me that the drums on Siamese Dream are mushy and not crisp and clear?
No, that's good. I'm talking about just Steve's general
Okay.
opinions on production.
You best not be insulting my boy Butch Vig.
And, you know, he's done some great work and also did Gish.
I don't think Butch Vig did Gish.
Are
Did
you
he?
sure? I could have sworn he did.
I'll fact check
You
it
might be
again.
right. Oh, thank you, Mike.
I did Gish.
Oh, that's right.
You had a break with Kiss and you were working on Gish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
working
yeah,
with
would
Little
you
Billy
Big
Big
was on
concede,
Gish, yeah.
would you concede that this is a better sounding album than Gish?
Yes. Yes.
Would you concede this is a better album than Gish?
Yes. Yes, but not in the way that you mean.
Butch Vig did
A
do
side-by-side comparison of the albums and
Side-by-side-
material, which is a better listen as a piece of music. That's the way I mean it.
Yeah, all right. It's rock and roll over, and that's fine. But Gish is still a great album. To me, you're comparing two great albums.
And that's
And I'm
fine if you
picking
feel
one
that
up-
way.
up-
I'm just
Yeah.
doing a side-by-side comparison of, as we're talking about production and techniques and different eras of recording albums you've mentioned previously.
Greg, it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's just that apples are better and more fun
Apples
to
plus oranges.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a song on a door.
eat.
Which is a great album and is much better than Rock and Roll Over. Anyway,
Wait a minute, Greg. Hang on. I'm a big enough fan to admit that Rock and Roll Over is better than Gish.
I'm able to admit that too.
Yeah, you gotta admit though that this blows the door out of the water.
What? No.
It honestly, it does. But I just felt like saying that hot take to see what the reactions would be. But Adore is really, really great, and I feel like I would put Adore above, let's say, Monster and Sonic Boom.
Well, yeah, oh yeah. If I had to weirdly assert Adore into my
Well,
Kiss album list,
That's next week's rankings. Is
Yeah,
an
we're doing-
intermingled
we're doing
ranking.
all-
this-
No, it's all the Kiss albums and Adore. That's the only difference.
I'd probably I'd put Adore just above in my ranking, probably just above Creatures.
Oh, and also the Peter Gabriel solo album with the face is melting.
Oh, that would be number one. That I will accept no other opinion than Peter Gabriel 3 is a song for song better album and artistic statement than any Kiss album. And I say that as
Put your hands in my pocket, grab onto my rocket. Has Peter Gabriel ever come up with a lyric like that?
show me around your fruit cage and I'll be your honeybee. Open up that fruit cage because that fruit's as sweet as can be.
Oh,
Did you
damn!
have
So
B with B?
Yeah.
wow, he could
He
be
went
Fred
there.
Durst with that level of lyric.
Yeah, but it's B with two E's and B with one E. It's two
There you
different
go.
words.
Because spelling is very important in homophones and poetry.
I'm feeling so dirty, you're looking so clean. If all I could get is a spin in your washing machine. Come on. That's from Peter's first album, 1977. Modern
Why
Love.
does Gene take shit for log and fireplace, but washing machine is okay?
Because progressive rock is deep, bro.
Because I think it's funnier to think of a vagina as a washing machine than a fireplace.
I mean, they both sound like a wild time, but
I mean, going for a tumble is a long established euphemism.
And also, let's establish that what makes more sense, like something like dry and hot, or like a washing machine, which is at least wet.
Wet and soapy.
That wet ass machine.
It's been really bad. Wham, wham, wham.
That's wham.
So yeah, I'm. Also, I think that
if you do need a bucket and a mop for your wet ass washing machine, you've got a leak somewhere, and you should probably fix it. At least get your drip tray in place.
All right, Ben Shapiro.
I say this as somebody whose washing machine is currently leaking into the drip pan with everything.
that's relevant. for you,
washing
I get
machines
it.
don't care about your feelings, okay?
They don't. I should
I mean, they
fix it.
literally don't, but
Are we still talking? Is this still a euphemism?
Anyway, so
No, I'm
also,
literally like, we need to finish this up so I can go paint.
so calling Dr. Love, I think this version is cool. That's all I have to say. All right, so now we need to get Mike's thoughts and Jamie's thoughts, and then wrap up thoughts. So Mike, go ahead.
sure. Well, first I'll toss in there that yes, Butch Vig did produce Gish along with Billy Corgan. As for Rock and Roll Over, it's not a bad thing going at this point on the podcast, but when you do, the fact is that so many of you have already nailed so many of the great delights about Rock and Roll Over. I was also somewhat surprised that Victor didn't say it, but then Gavin did. He used Victor's now famous line that Rock and Roll Over is just the quintessential young, dumb fuck energy. Not only maybe in the Kiss catalog, but just maybe almost in rock music. It's right up there
Solo.
in general.
Solo, I think, has more.
Okay, I see. I would argue that Rock and Roll Over has more, but yeah, they're both up there. Yeah, it's just the I love the guitar tones. It's that riffy, rockin', good feeling Kiss. Yeah, much like Greg, I think it was you who said, Destroyer is what people think Kiss sounds like. Rock and Roll Over defines like what Kiss does sound like, or like the true, at least spirit and essence of Kiss. Gavin, you were talking about how it's like the hardest rocking Kiss album ever, and I disagreed with you. I mean, from like an objective standpoint, there are like at least like 8 other albums that are like technically heavier and harder rocking. But if we're talking in terms of like spirit and energy and vibe and aura that they were bringing to the table and like what they had in mind, then I get where you're coming from. It's meant to be a big bombastic rock album.
That's where heaviness, for me at least, comes.
Sure,
Sorry,
I get what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I know they did recorded parts of it, like in a theater, to get that sound. Yeah, I mean, I guess you guys have mostly all been pretty favorable towards Baby Driver. I don't know. Some people kind of like trash that as just a shitty throwaway Peter song. I think it's delightful. Hard Luck Woman is great because it is like the one kind of like spot on the album that veers from the other 9 songs, and yet it still totally fits in somehow. The one thing I'll say, and I don't really think of this as a hot take, but I don't know, it might be perceived as a hot take. I will say that the definitive version of Take Me is the one on You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best.
That's a hot take.
You're
wrong.
See, that was my introduction to it, so that could be why.
Yeah.
I knew that version first. I don't know. That one is just a rockin', stomping. There's a lot of energy to it. I'm not saying I don't like the studio version. In fact, over the years, because I'm like a studio albums guy, I like to sit down and listen to a whole album more than like a compilation album. I've heard the original Take Me many more times, but I don't know. Whenever I put on that You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best Take Me version, that just reminds me why I fell in love with rock music. Because I mean, that version was probably one of the first like 50 rock songs I ever heard. So it was very early in my discovery of rock music, and I was like, what is this? This guy's just like flying on a rocket ship. Like I did. I thought this guy was flying through space on a rocket with like some hot chick. I didn't realize he actually was just like, yo, grab my dick, babe. But either one works. So yeah, I mean, at this point, what do you say about Rock and Roll Over that hasn't been said? But I'm fine with it being at number one. About 13 years ago, when I ranked the albums with a couple friends, I had it at number 2. I know this time around I put it at number 4. But the fact is, it's up there any way you slice it.
Ha! Anyway, you slice it.
And
That's the way
Jamie,
you need it.
Jamie, you put this at number 1, and it ranked number 1. What are your thoughts on Rock and Roll Over?
Well,
Is it as
I'm
good as
very
The Elder?
pleased. I would say it's at least as good as The Elder, yeah, definitely. And I think my ranking reflects that. I'm sure everybody on this show is very well aware that I do have it tattooed on my arm. I love it that much. It is, for me, the greatest Kiss album. Funnily enough, Mike mentioned Baby Driver. And Baby Driver is the one song on the album that I do think is a little bit throwaway, but I still love it loads. But yeah, it's just a serious rock album. It's everything that Kiss are. I consider it to be one of their few like very serious albums. Not that I think that they ever made any kind of joke albums per se, but like I mentioned earlier, like Kissing Times seems out of place on the debut, and Love Theme was just kind of added to make up the minutes, I think, and a little bit of a throwback to the early club days. Hotter Than Hell sounds like it was recorded in a bin, so that never really lived up to the vibe it should have. Dressed to Kill is really short of ideas because they were rushed back into the studio again. Destroyer is Disney Kiss. So by the time you get to Rock and Roll Over, you get really their first attempt in a studio with a proper producer where they're just making balls to the walls rock and roll, which is what they always wanted to do, apparently. So yeah, I love it. I think it's a perfect album and one I would never get bored of.
Well, there we go. So that is our ranking of all the Kiss albums. Steve, you made it through.
Hooray!
You did it. How do you feel at the end of this journey?
My Reaper project is 11 hours and 40 minutes long.
Wow, for this? Wow.
Which means 11 episodes.
Or one really long episode.
Yeah.
Nope.
What would Joe Rogan do, Greg?
Joe Rogan doesn't edit, but because I edit, this is going to be 11 episodes.
I mean, Joe Rogan would do DMT. That's what Joe Rogan would do.
He would do DMT and show you a video of a leopard doing DMT. You're like, dude, check this shit out. It's amazing. But not only 11 hours of just this ranking, but think of all the other hours you spent listening to Kiss, talking about Kiss on those previous episodes.
Yeah.
Covering an entire Kiss set list. You've become a Kiss expert, Steve. How does it feel to be at the end of this journey?
I regret everything.
Well, as someone who
You said you like 3 Kiss songs.
That's true. 3 Kiss songs are like truly iconic and great. And then a bunch of Kiss songs are pretty all right. Not the sort of thing that I normally listen to, but, solid songs. That if somebody karaoke'd them, I'd be like, hey, that was neat. If they did a good job. Or if they did a bad job, I'd be like, hey, that was funny.
As someone who wasn't exactly here the entire time that you were going on this journey, would you agree that the real Kiss was the friends you met along the way?
I would, yes.
I mean, think about it. These are the friends you met along the way of your Kiss journey, Steve. Pretty much everyone here is new to you other than me.
Well, yeah, Steve and I became best friends, so that means a lot. Yeah.
Would you
I
say
made a lot
that
of very important internet friends. This journey.
I mean, I turned you onto a Nal Nathrak in a way, and that's a real positive.
That's true. That was a team effort, but yeah.
Especially if you've seen the uncensored cover for their new album.
I did see your post about that.
Jesus.
That title is a very accurate description of what the cover for the record was.
Yes. Folks, go Google. It's good fun.
You might have to spell that for them. There's a lot more A's than they might expect in an all.
I'll pop it in our group.
Isn't there one more A than you would expect?
Yeah, there is one more A.
It's a lot of A's for a 2-syllable word.
Again, we're back to anal.
Yeah, it's just
And
anal.
that's
with one
why you
extra
like that
I.
band so much, right? They just make you think of Gene Simmons.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
From the top! Ah!
I mean,
yeah, this
yeah.
makes me think about butt sex.
Yeah. They're also quite insensitive to suicide as well, because when I saw them, they told us to all go and kill ourselves. And obviously, Gene has a history of making poor comments about people dying due to those kinds of illnesses.
I think you're allowed to just call them mental in that context. We had a whole bit about this. It probably
I was
got
going to
edited
say
out.
full circle back to the thing that probably won't be in the podcast.
So let's do the other side of the coin, since there's two sides of the coin, as there were.
There are three.
But
Three. Do it soccer, because that's the thing they do.
but Victor,
Is Dane Cook in Kiss now?
so he's an Aerosmith. So Victor, you also went on this Kiss journey as a newcomer. How was your journey through the catalog and thoughts on this ranking?
You know, I fully expected to go into the Kiss oeuvre and come out feeling honestly closer to Steve's feelings than yours. And I think oddly enough, I maybe hit exactly in the middle. I think it's like, I think half of these albums are good to great, and I could simply throw many of the rest of them in the bin and not really care.
So Victor is just like the new president of Kiss Fan Purgatory.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
That's my favorite Facebook group.
And like, I think ultimately, if I had to go through and comb through, every album had at least one song that I liked. So there is that, but I'm not gonna pretend I'm gonna go listen to, for example, Animalize again. I do though think that basically everything that I voted 13 and up, though I would probably put them in a different order and maybe move Dress to Kill into this echelon as well. I think all of those are good albums worth, having in a rotation, having something where I'm like in the mood to throw them on at work or while I'm not at work, the two states of being. I would say I am technically a Kiss fan now, which is a weird thing to say. And interestingly, my views on them honestly haven't changed that much. I think when I didn't know that much about Kiss, I was like, oh, they do like the kind of like they look this way and they sound a different way, and the lyrics are stupid. And that's exactly how I still feel, except that
You like it now.
I like it.
Welcome to Kiss.
It's like in between having that thought for the first time and now I listened to more music, and then a lot of that music ended up being Kiss in recent months. And I certainly wouldn't, if somebody came up to me and told me that Kiss were shitty, I have no spine, so I would be willing to just completely agree with them. But in my heart, I would be like, but they've got like 14 or 15 good albums. And I mean, at the very least, they've got Torpedo Girl, which should just turn everybody's... Everybody
we'll always have Torpedo Girl.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I'm rambling too much at this point, but like Unmasked, genuinely a favorite album of mine. I'm not kidding. I think it's great. And at the very least, having all these conversations with good music loving folks, even if it had to be about Kiss, just kind of made me excited about music in a way that I didn't really get to be as a kid because my dad actively discouraged me from looking up things about rock bands that I was interested in. So I didn't have a lot of practice doing it until
keep the mystery alive, son. Keep the mystery alive.
No, it was like, keep the mystery alive and do not listen to this music.
Oh, okay.
Don't look up what Nothing to Lose is about.
Yeah.
It's funny because like they finally convinced me to go to the library and start reading books. And then when I would pick up a book that was like about the various life and times of Aerosmith. And then he found out I was reading that. And he's like, you can't read that. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm no interests for Victor. So like in a genuine way, it has been doing this podcast, and not that this is the end of it necessarily, but like it's been a cool and different thing that I haven't been able to do a lot in my life, and it's been a good time.
Jamie, how do you feel about being at the end of this Kiss journey, this ranking, just general thoughts?
It's completely emotional. As you know, I started out as a fan of the show and just randomly found you on the internet and said, I would love to be on this show. And you said, okay, it would be good to have a foreigner on. And that's how we got to where we are now. I mean, I know Steve's technically foreign, but I'm more foreign. And yeah, I can't believe you've got here. I can't believe Steve lasted this long.
He made it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And Gavin,
I mean, in fact, I'm surprised you haven't been took out by a member of the Kiss community for your outrageous statements. I mean, I'm still not over the fact that you put Peter Criss's 78 and Music for the Elder above Rock and Roll Over.
that picture where they're like they hated Jesus because he told them the truth.
I mean, like I've known you long enough now to know that was going to happen, and still, when it happened and you admitted to doing it openly on a public forum that's going to be out on the internet forever, it still shocked me. But, you know, well done for sticking to your morals, and at no point have you been peer pressured into choosing the right Kiss album as the best one.
To be fair, we haven't released this yet, so there's still plenty of time for, angry fans to send me death threats.
Look, this is why I won't run for public office, because they'll be like, you can't vote for this guy. He thinks Peter Criss 78 is a good album. Gavin, how do you feel about reaching the end of this Kiss journey? What do you think about this ranking and general thoughts about us finally reaching the end of the catalog with a K?
Oh, you mean the end of the road?
Yes.
Sing, tour, tie-in, name. But no, I mean, I let's see. My first Kiss episode with you guys would have been Asylum, yeah.
Because before that, you were just a Pumpkins guest.
Yeah, before that, I was just a Pumpkins boy.
Wait, Gavin and I started at the exact same time? Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
We have the same rookie year.
Same, yeah. Our rookie cards are equally valuable.
Yeah. Well, yours is a little bit more, but
one thing about going through a catalog like this in this way is that it forces you to kind of look at albums that, because I had heard, Asylum, for instance, I had heard it before, and I just kind of, wrote it off as, it's 80s Kiss. I don't like 80s Kiss because I didn't like 80s Kiss when I was 9. But, doing that episode, yeah, I like Asylum. I put it on sometimes and listen to it of my own free will. I like it a lot, and getting to talk to lots of various people about their Kiss opinions, has been a lot of fun. I think we all love hearing wild opinions that we both agree with and disagree with. I like Unmasked a lot more than I used to, due to this. It's great, and I'm waiting for next week there to be an announcement that Kiss has been secretly recording an album in quarantine this whole time, and then we have to redo the whole thing and figure out how to slip that next album in.
Well, Paul's been recording Soul Station, so it's probably just that.
Yeah, it's probably true.
And
but there are new Paul songs on that, aren't there? So we're getting something from the Kiss camp.
right, we can hear Paul Stanley in 2020 saying, because 2020 is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
That even though that was very true, it felt very mean, and I feel bad about that. I just want that on the record.
Paul's given us so much, and as weird as an argument as that is, I'm going with it. God damn it,
Mike. We made it to the end of the Kiss catalog with a K. You got Victor came in at the last minute, but warmed your heart with many opinions. Steve and you became best friends, and this ranking exists. What are your thoughts on the ranking and us reaching the end of the catalog?
Thoughts on this random list?
I mean, yeah, going along with that note, I met Steve, became best friends. I met Victor, would consider him a friend. He has some great opinions. Met Gavin, consider him a friend. He has great opinions. Really, the only friendship that was weakened was my friendship with you, Greg. But how strong was it in the first place? Am I right? No, but that's very much a joke. That last part, I should say the others are I do consider you guys friends. And dude, how did I leave out Jamie? It's because you didn't mention him. Yeah, I also consider Jamie a friend. Jamie, I'm not an Anglophobe. In fact, I'm an Anglophile. Greg just left you out for some cruel reason.
Well, I didn't mention Gavin either. I just mentioned Steve and Victor as well.
Well, I like all these guys. Now I feel terrible. No. The point I'm truly trying to make is I became a big fan of Kiss about 24 years ago. I'm 35, so I mean they have been a huge part of most of my life and virtually all of my life because I don't remember what I was doing when I was 2. So like pretty much been there for most of my conscious years. And I mean, music is my favorite thing. I probably have said it repeatedly, even on this podcast. Like I take music over sports, TV, and movies, even though I enjoy those things as well. But music is what interests me. It's how I spend my time. I'm reading books about it, listening to audiobook autobiographies by musicians, reading articles on the internet. Just it is in a way an obsession, but it's what I truly love. And just even to think, man, if you had told me 24 years ago I would be doing this with guys from around the country and the world, I would be like, oh wow, that sounds complicated. So we're all going to be typing our opinions in like a chat room. And they'd be like, oh no, you're gonna have like way higher, faster internet, and it's gonna be like you can see them if you want. They're gonna be on like audio recordings, and there's gonna be this thing called podcasts, and it'll be on this thing called
listen to it.
It'll be on this thing called YouTube. I mean, all joking aside, my mind would be blown. And I mean, it's also awesome to me that here I am 24 years later discussing my favorite band, and just even if it wasn't my favorite band, I just love talking about music. And as much as in some of those first few podcasts, I freaked out at some of the just wildly insane rankings. There's many opinions I've disagreed with, but been like, oh, I can see where that's coming from. And even the ones that I'm like, no, that's just straight bullshit, I still just love talking about it with people. So all jokes aside that I've ever made during this entire duration, I'm very fortunate to get to talk about my favorite thing, which is music, with other people who love music. And I already kind of spoiled that earlier on, if that was being recorded. I just think our top 6 is hilarious because the top 3 are so what you would expect, and then the next 3 are just like, oh, and here's another 3 Kiss albums. Even though one of those is my favorite Kiss album, I recognize that 4 through 6 is just anarchy. I mean, compared to the first 3.
The actual top 10 with the absentee votes, which the only reason I didn't have everyone on the episode was because, do you know how long this would be if all those people were on the episode?
111 hours.
Yeah, but the actual top 10 being Unmasked, Creatures, Dynasty, Hotter Than Hell, Love Gun, Ace Frehley, Dress to Kill, Destroyer, Kiss, Rock and Roll Over. Like, they're all makeup era albums.
So, I mean, I don't know if I'm willing. Am I willing to take the music from the Elder Bullet to get Crazy Nights? I think I would have to take ours instead of that overall one.
So the true ranking, with Republicans suppressing the votes, is Paul Stanley. So top 10. Paul Stanley 78, Unmasked, Dress to Kill, Ace Frehley, Music from the Elder, Crazy Nights, Dynasty, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, self-titled debut. I like ours better, so we're going with that as the canon. So actually, for those listening at home, edit this podcast yourself and put the Kiss self-titled discussion after the Rock and Roll Over discussion. But yeah, that's it. That's the episode. So time for plugs. Mike, what do you want to plug this week? Keep in mind this will come out a year from now.
All right.
Can you do like 11 plugs in a row, please, Mike?
Well, I was going to say, even because I was aware of that because you made that joke last time that this will come out so much longer in the future. Even knowing that, I still want to make this same plug because it's relevant now, and it'll still be a good thing to do a year from now. We just a few days ago lost one of the biggest greats. I mean, Eddie Van Halen. So if you just listen to my spiel about how much I love music and rock music in particular, I mean, like 85% of what I adore wouldn't exist or would sound drastically different without Eddie Van Halen. So even you guys listening to this from a year from now, if you've heard, oh, I hear that guy's awesome, but I only heard Jump once, or even if you only know 10 awesome Van Halen songs, just dig deeper. Check out stuff, because even I've been doing that, and I own every single album. And this past few days, I've been listening to stuff, and like it's been hitting me differently. Just like stuff I hadn't even appreciated, and a lot of it's Eddie related, but some of it's even stuff that the other guys are doing on those albums. So there's a lot of great music there. If they're one of those bands that you've kind of taken for granted or just never took the time to dig deep, I strongly recommend it because there's so much enjoyment to be found there.
And Jamie, how about you? Plug your stuff.
I feel kind of bad segueing into my plug here because everything that Mike just said there was completely right on. I posted something out on social media earlier today, which links to my plug, which is that I'm in a band called Be Quiet, Shout Loud. You can find us on all the social media platforms and on all the streaming services. And Eddie Van Halen was a massive influence on, well, still is a massive influence on my playing, because when I first got into playing guitar, which was because of Kiss, when I was about 12, I'd already heard kind of a lot of the guitarists that had come out of being massively influenced by Jimi Hendrix. So by the time I'd discovered Jimi Hendrix, it didn't sound new to me. It didn't sound fresh because I'd heard other guitarists doing what they were doing because of Jimmy. But the first time I heard Eddie Van Halen, like my head kind of imploded, and it was via Kiss, because of course it was. I bought a really crappy film called Detroit Rock City, and one of the songs on that film is a song called Running with the Devil by Van Halen from their first album. And I'd never heard anything like it before. There was clearly just one guitar and one guitarist, but what was being played was like nothing else I'd ever heard in rock music. Certainly not with one guitarist, and not even with two. And I tried to put that into everything I ever did as a guitarist, because in my band I'm the only guitarist. So I'm always conscious of trying to be melodic and rhythmic and always get like the chunk of a track across. And the video I posted out today was we did this song called Till the Weekend Comes Round Again. And if I remember rightly, we were doing, it might have been the Psycho Circus that wasn't Psycho Circus episode. We were doing an episode anyway, a Lipstick episode. And I just finished mixing that track. We hadn't even released it at this point. And I sent all of you folk a link to it to check out prior. But that middle section came out of me trying to write something that sounded a bit like Beat It and a bit like I Was Made for Loving You. The only thing I knew was that I wanted a solo as silly as Eddie Van Halen on it. And I actually I wanted to buy a Wolfgang, an Eddie Van Halen signature Wolfgang guitar, but I'm left-handed and they didn't have the version that I wanted, so I ended up buying a Charvel Super Strat. He was endorsed by Charvel anyway, and I bought that guitar because I wanted to sound like Eddie, and I still want to sound like Eddie, and we've lost a great. I rambled on for ages there, but there hasn't been a guitarist since Eddie Van Halen that's had the impact on rock and roll like Eddie Van Halen did, and there never will be. Sad, sad loss. But yeah, my band, Be Quiet, Shout Loud, check us out. We're all right.
Agree with that fully. Gavin, your turn for plugs.
And how am I supposed to follow that one? God damn it.
Listen to my art rock band. We sound nothing like Van Halen.
You could talk about how Alex has influenced you, and he's going through a terrible loss in his life right now.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the loss of Eddie Van Halen is a colossal loss for rock music and the guitar in general. Van Halen is a band that, while I'm definitely among the unfortunate crowd who I know like all the hits and I love them, but like I haven't like taken the super deep dive. I've heard I've heard a few of the albums, but I definitely need to do more. You can
Van Halen 3 is the best one.
That sure is a thing you said.
For God's sake. Does it never end?
Van Halen 3 isn't even the best Gary Sharon album.
That was a joke.
I mean, even that one we know Greg is joking. But...
that was a joke. Although Without You is a great song. Top 10 Van Halen song. Anyway, Gavin, continue.
I'm in a band called Bent Knee. We have the rock. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we don't. So hopefully we're on the road again whenever this comes out. Okay, hopefully the road is...
no, you won't.
Sanitized?
Yeah, I know. Hopefully the road's been well sanitized and all that.
You think you're going to be on the road in 11 weeks from now, dude?
A boy can dream, Greg. A boy can dream, and then...
I mean, I could space this out till this doesn't end. These Kiss episodes don't end till third quarter 2021.
Yeah, but what are we going to do in the meantime? What are we going to keep recording in the meantime? We have to keep ranking albums.
God damn it.
BentleyMusic.com, Bentley Music on the Twitter, Bentley Music on the Instagram. I'm Gavin, Gavin WA42 on the Twitch. It's Mr. Gavin on Twitter. It's Mr. Gavin on Instagram. Hey.
And Victor, you are obviously someone who is hugely influenced by Eddie Van Halen. We hear it all over your writing on basically every single track. Do your plugs. Victor is so moved by this that he's silent. He doesn't know what to say because he is just so deeply affected by Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, he just decided to do a moment of silence for Eddie Van Halen so that he could show the rest of us up.
I see a single tear moving down his cheek. Oh, now he's typing it. He said, the loss felt by us and them. Oh, Victor, come on, buddy. You can write better than this. The loss felt by us and them is and always have been a loss that felt bad, with a question mark at the end. Bad? With an exclamation point. And then Eddie Vedder Halen. Victor, that's not his name. I can't believe you typed that, Victor. Eddie Vedder Halen? Come on.
You're welcome. Soon. Can you hear me now?
Oh, he's back. Okay.
He's back. So Victor, plug your stuff and also do your best remembering of Eddie Van Halen.
No, I would love to, because that's actually so I was not the world's biggest Van Halen fan. I'm not afraid to admit that, because there are people who really love him and they would be like, yeah, I like him a lot more than you. But I've always admired his playing. He's like a truly singular guitarist, as everybody's already said. And when I found out he died, I was on my lunch break at work, and I was honestly a little bit shocked at how emotional that made me. And then I, just loaded up a couple of Van Halen albums on the work speaker, and, throughout the day was just hearing songs that I love and, just kind of not fully comprehending the totality of that catalog. Especially Dance the Night Away speaks to me as a song in particular, is one that really affected me. And technically, Eddie Van Halen and I, in a very macro sense, do the same thing in that we both play guitar. In comparison, obviously, what I do is like
Far
watching.
superior to that chump.
Yeah, it's like watching a monkey like put two sticks next together and then see somebody build a house. Like but you know, like unbelievable talent, just Mount Rushmore of guitar playing. He's there, and hopefully it doesn't desecrate any Native American land. But you know, Greg keeps saying this is going to be like a year from now, even if it's only 11 weeks from now that this episode comes out. God damn it, I'm going to try and have this album done by then. So this is a really good way of keeping accountability. You can find me under the name James Gameboy on Patreon, Spotify, Bandcamp, most of the music streaming platforms, I'm sure. And I have an album that is pretty close to done with another draft that I think is at least, you know, pretty much there. I'm going to have people from this chat listen to it if they're so inclined to give me some notes.
Can we do the notes in the form of an episode?
Oh, that would be amazing. Especially if we just talk about Sonic the whole time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Which is what would happen. But you know, one of the things about this album that I wanted to do, especially in comparison to my first album, is I wanted to present myself as a better guitar player than I was. And, you know, I'm not going to blow anybody's mind. I'm not writing eruption here. But that, you know, when I got that news, that was like just kind of a reminder to sort of redouble my efforts to be the best guitarist I can be. And a couple of things that I, you know, read about him were just like, he was one of the few guitar players of the era who didn't look super serious while he was playing. It was always just pure joy for him. And that is something that I can also relate to musically. I want it to be fun and not just a constant artistic striving, which is then extremely annoying when I'm striving artistically and then I listen to the words and they're really stupid. But, you know, that also comes back to Kiss. And then the other thing was, I believe it was Sean O'Connor on twitter.com. I want to make sure to give him credit because this is a great quote. It was like, I listened to Van Halen a lot as a kid and not so much as an adult. And now receiving this news, I've gone back to the catalog and started understanding what it was that I liked about him so much, which is that every Van Halen song sounds like a dog wearing sunglasses. And yeah, so James Gameboy, that's all. Thanks for listening to me ramble.
And since I feel like Steve won't say as much about Eddie Van Halen, I feel as the leader of our cock rock band, I feel it's my duty to say something as although Van Halen is one of the few classic rock T-shirts that Steve has.
It's true. I bought it at a Sears for $5.
Rock and roll.
Support the arts, yo.
But I mean, anyone who's heard my music, like the Van Halen influence is very, very clear. From the charismatic frontman who actually can't really sing, but he's really charming and has a bunch of really good musicians behind him. You know, that's obviously a huge Van Halen influence, including the bassist carrying the load of the backing vocals for a singer who can't really sing. So, and also, you know, shred guitars. Obviously, Van Halen, primary influence, one of my favorite bands in my youth, molded me. Like, I can't imagine making the kind of music I do without Van Halen as like one of the major reference points. So much of my musical identity was cut like doing Van Halen covers in my basement with my buddies. Like, I lived and breathed those albums. I could go on for a while, but I'm not going to. But just like, if you listen to my albums, like, oh, does this guy like Van Halen? Yeah, no fucking shit. He likes Van Halen. So
Isn't
obviously,
that the name of your first album?
Yeah, the album was called No Fucking Shit. This guy likes Van Halen. Also, he probably likes Kiss, and I think there was a Thin Lizzy reference on there.
And the White Album.
And the White Album.
And not Gish.
But like, you know, any if you're like someone who's first getting into music and you hear Eruption for the first time, it blows your mind. Like, as someone who's like becoming a music fan, and then you just discover that, it does like change your life. So yeah, Steve, close out with whatever thoughts you want and plugs for the band.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add on the Eddie Van Halen thing. Like, he's a guitarist that I have a lot of respect for. I've enjoyed a lot of Van Halen music, even Van Hagar. I think they had some great songs, and I recognize that in an artist that, like, he redefined the guitar, and then he was like, now I want to play keyboard for a while. That's a respectable thing to do. But yeah, Van Halen's cool. It's a shame that Eddie died, but you can find our band at lipstickgeneration.com. There's no specific Van Halen content there other than just the fact that, the dude defined guitar for a generation, so that happened. And you can also find us at Lipstick Generation on most platforms that we exist on. And words. Stuff.
Needly me.
All right, and stick around for next week where we rank every single Kiss song. Bye, everyone.
Oh, bye.
Torpedo Girl, number 1.
All right, so I need you guys to send in your rankings. Thanks for listening to the Lipstick Panel, hosted by Lipstick Generation. Lipstick Generation's music can be found on all major streaming platforms and at lipstickgeneration.com. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your ranking of the subject in the comments down below. Feel free to leave us an episode suggestion also. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, please leave a review and tell a friend about our show. Thanks, and rock on.
We did it! We saved the world with our opinions on Kiss! We did something worthwhile with our team! We did it!
Now COVID is fixed, young people have economic prospects and universal health care, and the world is finally at peace. We can rest easy now that our ranking reflects something much more conventionally agreed upon by Kiss fans.
Wait, hold on! I'm phasing out of existence! Oh no, it's the bad theory of time travel, where we'll all cease to exist!
Oh, the bad theory of time travel means my good opinions disappear! Ah!